Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Grivanadari Gopi Jana Ballabha Grivanadari Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Asadhara Satushi Shiman His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Harival, glories to the sound devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Agyan Tumanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Parakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Scha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vidham Dham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakanzitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishu Bhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, The Advent of Lord Krishna, Introduction, Text 35. It yukta sakala papo Vojanam kula pamshana Bhaginim hantu arabdam Kaga pani hatkatse grihit It yukta sakala papau Bodhanam kula pamsanaha Bhaginim Antum Arabdam Kaga Pani Kase Grihit. We did 35 yesterday. Okay, so anyhow, we'll just go through this. You read the Sanskrit. Isn't that what's on the board there? Is 35? Anyhow, they made a mistake. Anyhow, I'll just read the 36. Wanting to pacify Kamsa, who was so cruel and envious that he was shamelessly ready to kill his sister, the great soul Vasudeva, who is the father of Krishna, spoke to him in the following words. Please repeat. Wanting to pacify Kamsa, who was so cruel and envious that he was shamelessly ready to kill his sister, the great soul of Vasudeva, who was to be the father of Krishna, spoke to him in the following words. Purport. Vasudeva, who is to be the father of Krishna, is described here as Mahabhaga, a very upright and sober personality. Because although Kamsa was ready to kill Vasudeva's wife, Vasudeva remained sober and unagitated. In a peaceful attitude, Vasudeva began to address Kamsa by putting forward reasonable arguments. Vasudeva was a great personality because he knew how to pacify a cruel person, how to forgive even the bitterest enemy. One whose fortune is never caught, even by tigers or snakes. Text 37. Vasudeva said, "My dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the pride of your family, the Bhoja dynasty, and great heroes praise your qualities. How could such a qualified person as you kill a woman, your own sister, especially on the occasion of her marriage?" Purport: according to Vedic principles, a brahmana, an old man, a woman, a child, or a cow cannot be killed under any circumstances. Vasudeva stressed that Devaki was not only a woman, but a member of Kamsa's family. Because she was now married to Vasudeva, she was Parastri, another man's wife. And if such a woman were killed, not only would Kamsa be implicated in sinful activities, but his reputation as the king of the Bhoja dynasty would be damaged. Thus Vasudeva tried in many ways to convince Kamsa in order to stop him from killing Devaki. O great hero, one who takes birth is sure to die, for death is born with the body. One may die today or after hundreds of years, but death is sure for every living entity. Purport. Vasudeva wanted to impress upon Kamsa that although Kamsa feared dying and therefore wanted to kill even a woman, he could not avoid death. Death is sure. But then, why then should Kamsa do something that would be detrimental to his reputation and that of his family? It's confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2:27. Chetasya hi dhruvam ritor dhruvam janmam ritasya cha tasmata pariharyete etvam sochitim arhasi. For one who has taken birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. One should not fear death. Rather, one should prepare himself for the next birth. One should utilize one's time in this human form to end the process of birth and death. It is not that he should save himself from death. It is not to save himself from death. One should entangle himself in sinful activities. This is not good. When the present body turns to dust and again reduced to 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the proprietor of the body, the living being, automatically receives another body of material elements, according to his fruit of activities. When the next body is obtained, he gives up the present body. Purport. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, which presents the beginning of spiritual understanding. Denosminita dehe kaumaram yovanam jara titatahantra praptir diryas tatranuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. Person or an animal is not the material body. Rather, the material body is the covering of the living being. Bhagavad Gita compares the body to a dress and elaborately explains how one changes dresses one after another. The same Vedic knowledge is confirmed here. The living being, the soul, is constantly changing bodies one after another. Even in the present life, the body changes from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age. Similarly, that when the body is too old to continue, the living being gives up this body, and by the laws of nature, automatically gets another body according to his fruitive activities, desires, and ambitions. The law of nature controls this sequence, and therefore as long as the living entity is under the control of the external material energy, the process of bodily change takes place automatically, according to one's fruitive activities. Vasudeva wanted to impress upon Kamsa that if he committed this sinful act of killing a woman, his next life he would certainly get a material body, still more conditioned to the sufferings of material existence. Thus Vasudeva advised Kamsa not to commit sinful activities. One who commits sinful activities because of ignorance, tamoguna, obtains a lower body. Karna guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. There are hundreds and thousands of different species of life. Why are there higher and lower bodies? One receives these bodies according to the circumstances of material nature. If in this life one is contaminated by the mode of ignorance and sinful activities, duskriti, in the next life by the laws of nature, he will certainly get a body full of suffering. The laws of nature are not subservient to the whimsical desires of the conditioned souls. Our endeavor, therefore, should be to associate always with sattva gun, not indulge in raja guna or tamagun, raja tamo bhavaha. Lust, desires, and greed keep the living entity perpetually in ignorance and prevent him from being elevated to the platform of sattva gun or shuddha sattva guna. One is advised to be situated in sattva guna, shuddha sattva guna. Devotional service, for thus one is immune to the reactions of the three modes of material nature. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Sadharane. Kamsa is afraid of death. So is there anyone here who's not afraid of death? Anyone here afraid of death? Well, the real test is that if you say you're not afraid of death, then we'll put a blindfold on you and we'll ask you to cross a busy highway. And we'll see if you'll merrily cross the highway. To be afraid of death is reasonable for the conditioned soul, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Urdvam alama dakshakam Urvam gachiti sattvasta Made tishtiti rajasa Jaganya gunavrittista Ado gachiti tamasa. that if we act in goodness, then we'll go upward to the heavenly planets. If we act in passion, we come back to these similar places, Melbourne or someplace like that. If we act in ignorance, then we go down to the lower species of life. Maybe we'll take birth in a good family of dogs. Maybe even in Melbourne. Prabhupada said that Nehru, for all his wonderful activities of managing India for so many decades, one astrologer said that he had become one of 2 dogs in a house in Sweden. For all his activities of management of a big country such as India, at least he could have become a dog in a house and had his own bowl. But he had to share his bowl with another dog. So what is the use of such an existence? But people don't know. Nunam brahmatak krute vikarma yet indriya pritya aprinoti nasaramanye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshida ashadeha. So Maharaj Rishabdev says, Nunam, he was quite surprised. Pramata, that people are so crazy. Nunam kurute vikarma, that they do things that are not allowed by the laws of material nature. Daiviyeshu gunamayi mamamai dharatya. The material nature is difficult to overcome because it's working according to Krishna's direction. So to think that somehow or another we can act whimsically and still get a desired destination. Just like I told that story of the person, he had heard that if you give a donation to the temple, to the priest, then you'll be guaranteed to go to heaven. You know that story? So he was a miserly person, he never gave any charity to anyone. But he decided, well, if I can go to heaven cheaply, then I might as well take advantage of that opportunity. So he went to the church and gave them $5. But it wasn't Aussie dollars, it was American dollars. That was worth a little bit more. And then he demanded from the priest a receipt. So the priest said, well, we usually don't give receipts for such a low amount of money. But he demanded so much, the priest to get rid of him, he gave him a receipt. So then he left his body, and he was on the line to be judged, to go through the pearly gates. St. Peter was there with a book, telling people sinful or pious activities and where they should go. So finally he got his turn. And although he was a miserly person, not very pious, still he was so attached to going to heaven with his receipt that he took it with him. So he got to the pearly gate. Peter looked in the book and said, you should go to hell. The man said, no, wait, I was guaranteed I could go to heaven. I have a receipt. And he took out the receipt. I gave $5 to the church. They guaranteed me. So there was a big hold-up, big argument going on. God was looking through the window, and he was wondering, what's the big hold-up? Why the line is so long and no one's moving? So he came in and asked Peter, what's wrong? So Peter said this man was miserly, sinful, he didn't give any charity, but one day he gave $5 to the priest, and the priest guaranteed him that he would go to heaven. So God took Peter off to the side, pulled out his wallet, and gave Peter $5, and said, give him back the $5 and tell him to go to hell. So people are like that. They think, I can do a little pious activity and that will counteract all my sinful activity. Prayaschita. That was one of the questions of Parikshit Maharaj to Shukadeva Goswami is it possible that we can do pious activities and counteract them, or we can do sinful activities and counteract them by pious activities? But Shukadeva Goswami did not agree with that. It is not that if you do pious activities, that will counteract the sinful activities. It may give you some pious result in the future. If you have a pot full of wine, even if you empty out the wine, the pot will still have contamination of the wine. Therefore, the only pious activity that counteracts sinful activities is devotional service. Otherwise, prayaschita or the Vedic remedies for sinful activities do not actually counteract them, but give one some other possibility of an experience. Just like King Riga, he was a very pious king. He gave in charity more cows than there are stars in the sky. Anyone know how many stars there are in the sky? Anyhow, more than that, if you want to count. And he gave away not only cows, but they were all covered with silken wrap, had golden horns and silver hooves, and they only had one new calf, and he gave them only to first-class brahmanas. And he also excavated wells so people could drink, and he had places where people who were travelers could take prasadam. So he did more pious activities than one could even conceive of. But one day, he gave a cow away to one brahmana, and that cow wandered back into his herd. And then he gave that same cow away to another brahmana. So when the brahmana who received the cow first saw that his cow had been now possessed by another brahmin, they got into an argument that the king gave me this cow. Why do you have it? So King Nriga went to the two brahmanas and promised them 100,000 cows in exchange for that one cow, and begged them that they should not curse him so that he'd go to hell. Unfortunately, these brahmanas were quite attached to that cow, and therefore they left, cursing the king, and left the cow there. And the king made sure he didn't give it away to another brahmin. In any case, at the end of his life, he had to go to Yamaraj. And Yamaraj saw all his record and said, "You've done so many pious activities, the amount of material enjoyment that you're going to have is practically unlimited. But I've noticed you did some sinful activities, you were cursed by two Brahmins, and therefore you're going to have to suffer the reaction of that curse. Now, which do you want first? To counter the sinful reaction, to experience the sinful reactions of the curse of the two Brahmins? Or do you want to experience unlimited pious activities that you deserve, the reaction for that?" So the king, he wisely thought, let me first experience the reactions of my impious activities, and then later, without any regret, without any anxiety, I can enjoy the reactions of my pious activities. So he told Yamaraj, let me suffer reactions to my sinful activities. So he was at once turned into a lizard and put into a well. Now, time of his ending his reactions to his sinful activities had come, and therefore the Yadu dynasty, younger generation of the Yadu dynasty were playing in the forest, and they noticed this well, and on the bottom of the well there was a big lizard. And they tried to get him out of the well, but they couldn't, so they went back to Dwarka and told Krishna about the lizard. So Krishna came, and of course Krishna has Prapti Siddhi, so he reached into the well and pulled out the lizard, and by Krishna's touch, the lizard turned into a beautiful demigod. And Krishna asked, my dear demigod, how is it that you were born, you had this body of a lizard? What had you done? And then King Nriga explained about his being his pious king, giving away so many cows in charity, providing for the pilgrims on their journey by water and food, shelter. But he had inadvertently made a mistake and given away a cow twice to one Brahmin, and then apparently it came back, and he gave it away to another Brahmin, and therefore he was cursed by both of them. So Krishna told King Nriga he can now go to the heavenly planets, enjoy his pious activities. And then he told these children of the Yadu dynasty that even if a Brahmin comes and wants to cut you, you should just smile, and you should never take away the property of a Brahmana, because if you take the property away of a Brahmin, then you and your family are going to have to live for 50,000 years in a miserable condition as a worm in stool. So I'll chastise anyone who takes the property of a Brahmin. By the way, I'm missing my pencil, if anyone's seen it. We don't want anyone to suffer sinful reactions. So, the point is that of course, King Nriga was a pious person, because otherwise, living in the well, he was thinking, as the lizard, he was thinking about Krishna all the time. That's why Krishna came. Ordinarily, Krishna doesn't come and take lizards out of wells. But because King Nriga was actually a pure devotee by that time, therefore Krishna had performed that activity. But nunam pramata krute vikarma, people are mad to perform sinful activities. Yadindriya pritya aprinoti, because they want to gratify their senses. In other words, scratching the itch. Now we know that if we scratch an itch, there's a pleasant sensation. Even Lord Krishna took the form of korma, a fish, which was like, I guess here it would be like 140,000 miles across. But he had an itch on his back. So the demigods, they took Mount Meru, which is made out of gold, which is like 140,000 kilometers high, made out of gold, and they put it on Korma's back. And when the demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk to get the nectar, then they were scratching Korma's back, which had an itch. So he had a pleasant sensation. So the material nature of Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj said, is pumsa striya maitune bhavam etam tura mitra granti mahu atogriya shatri sataptava. Is that right? No. That, what does Prahlad Maharaj say? It said that it's like scratching an itch, to relieve an itching sensation. Pumsa striya, it's not the Pumsa striya verse. Maituni bhavani, Troy mrityo granti mahu, atogriya shatri sutapta vetara. What's that? Say that louder. It's the other one. One is by Prahlad Maharaj, the other one is by Maharaj Rishabdev. No, that's Prahlad Maharaj's verse. But that's the Karyod Ridya whom? Yanmai Tunaidi Grihamedi Sukham Hitucham Torag Karya Ridya. No. What is the next one? What's that? Sandunyane Karya Iva Dukkha Dukkam Kandudivat Manasim Dira. So what's the first word again? Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukam hitucham. What's the next word? Kandoria? Kandoria. Dukha dukam. Triptyanti neha bahudukha bhaja. Kanduyava manasijam vishaheta dira. That material existence means somehow or another scratching and itching sensation. And but that scratching and itching sensation is like rubbing two hands together. In other words, sex desire, which is the pinnacle of material happiness, is like rubbing two hands together to relieve an itching sensation. But those who adira, they'll realize that this is not really very auspicious. But whether it's sex life or whatever other pushings we have, this is the material nature. Therefore Krishna says, Yehi samsparshya bhoga, dukkha yona evate, adyantavanta kontya teshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to the contact with the senses with their object. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and end, and so the wise person doesn't delight in them. Shaknoti haiva yakshodum praksharire vimokshana kama krodo bhavan vegan siyukta sasakinara. Before giving up the present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and he's well situated in this world. So Krishna never says that we should not provide the senses what they demand, what they need. But we shouldn't, as it says, we shouldn't eat to live, we should live to we should eat to live, we should not live to eat. In other words, to maintain the body, to maintain any machine requires some energy, and we should supply the energy, but the purpose of supplying the energy is so that we can use this body for self-realization, to go back to our original position, constitutional position in relation with Krishna. But if we utilize this body to maintain the body as Kamsa wants to do and perform sinful activities, that's yadindriya pritya nasada manye yata atmano yam. That a sane person, an intelligent person doesn't do that, because by such activities he's guaranteed to get another body and suffer, as Vasudeva is telling Kamsa. And this is called paravasthavadabodha jata yavana jignasita atma tattvam yavankriyas tavadi dhammanovai karmatmakam yena sharira abandhaha. That one is said to be defeated by the illusory energy as long as one does not inquire about the absolute truth. Because by such materialistic activities, one's mind becomes covered, and when one's mind is covered, then one's consciousness becomes unclear, and one will have to take one body after another. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, when Arjuna asks, I know what my duty is supposed to be, as it's explained here, that one duty is that you're not supposed to kill, under any circumstance, an old man, a woman, a Brahmin, or a cow. So, being old or being a woman is not so bad because no one's supposed to kill you. Because in Kali Yuga, they kill everyone. They don't really care about anyone in Kali Yuga. What to speak of the poor cows. Because they generally don't kill Brahmins because there aren't hardly any Brahmins. Hard to find a Brahmin. So, the problem is, Arjuna was asking, Shreyo swadamo viguna paradharma swanustitat shredame dinam shreya paradharma. Prabhupada said not to move your legs like that. Paradaha. that it's better to perform one's own duty, even imperfectly, than perform someone else's duty, because destruction of the course of one's duty is dangerous. It's better because to perform someone else's duty is dangerous. Because one will get the sinful reaction of, first of all, neglecting his own duty, plus he'll be taking someone else's duty. So he'll get the sinful reaction of usurping someone else's duty. So Arjuna said, well, what's the problem? Why do we do that? Like Kamsa knows that. It's not like Kamsa doesn't know. It's not a good idea to kill a woman. It's not like it's a new idea. Even in modern society, so far people are not thinking it's a good idea to kill anyone, in general. There's a reaction, even in modern society, if you kill anyone, except for a cow or any person, you're probably going to get at least a couple of months in jail. And then time off for good behavior. So you didn't kill anyone else in jail. But people know it's not a good idea. But, so Kamsa knew it, but why was he going to do that? Because Arjuna said, well, what's the problem? Ta keno priyukto yam papam charati purusha anicham bapi varshnaya baladiva niyojita. My dear Krishna, what is the problem? Why are people doing things they know they shouldn't be doing by force? What's that force? So Krishna says, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajaguna Samudbhava, Mahashino Mahapatma Vidya Nam Ihad Varina. That is lust only, Arjuna, born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later on transformed into wrath, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So we perform sinful activities, what's the problem? Dumena vriyate vanira yatardar shomalena cha tobina avrita garabastata tenedam avrita. As the fire is covered by smoke, as the mirror is covered by dust, or the embryo covered by the womb, so the living entity is covered by different degrees of lust. So the more lust we acquire by sinful activities, the more we become covered, and the more our next body becomes degraded into the lower species, into a lower form of life. So who really wants to become into a lower species of life? Everyone wants progress. Everyone wants to get a better existence. Therefore, we have to know what's to be done and what's not to be done, as Krishna says. Well, first of all, Krishna says, Mogaisha Moga Karmano, Moga Jnana Vichetasaha, Rakshasim Asrim Chaiva, Prakritim Mohinim Shritaha. So, Mogasya means to be bewildered. So, people are bewildered because they don't know what the goal of life is. They don't know what actually all the Vedic culture, all the Vedic injunctions, everything that's there, all the direction, what is it all meant for? So it's meant for understanding Krishna as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. So people would be quite surprised. So Prabhupada did not explain that at the beginning, and when he was preaching in the loft in New York, and people not from Brahminical culture were coming by. And he was talking about consciousness. He didn't talk about this. He talked about the Supreme. He didn't talk about a spirit soul, 1/10,000th the size of tip hair in size. It was completely beyond anyone's ability to accept at that time. So he talked about conscience or consciousness. So it's not so easy to understand that Krishna is a cowherd boy, but unless one understands who Krishna is, how he's controlling the minute and the infinite, how he descends in a human form, then what everyone is doing ultimately will be baffled. Because everyone wants happiness. People are working to get things, fruitive activities, because they want to get a good fruit. They want to get a nice situation. And for those more advanced and fruitive activities, they want to go to the heavenly planets, like King Nriga. He wanted to go to the heavenly planets. But he was baffled. How is it that I've tried so hard to be pious, but inadvertently, without even my control, the cow I gave now entered into another herd, and I have to live as a lizard in the bottom of a waterless well for thousands of years, just because there's one little mistake, because two Brahmins became angry unjustly. But that's karma, especially when Krishna was here in Dwapara Yuga. Nowadays, people don't even believe that there's such a thing as pious activities. Or what they think is pious activities is they give charity and they feed people meat, fish, and eggs. And they become involved, these people become involved, the people that are eating the meat, fish, and eggs as charity, they're performing sinful activities. The people who are distributing these unwanted foodstuffs, they become involved in sinful activities. And the charitable person who gave so much in charity to provide this opportunity for people to perform sinful activities, he gets sinful reactions also. So people don't know what's to be done, what's not to be done. They don't know, Nate vidu swartikatim vivishnu, that the purpose of life is to attain Vishnu, and it's the only way we can actually genuinely become happy, as long as we're engaged in a body pushing us towards so many different materialistic activities, even pious activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not so much impressed by Raghunath Das Goswami's father and uncle, Govardhan Mujabdara and Haranya Mujabdara, the big landholders, tax collectors, giving in charity to all the Brahmins, supporting all the Brahmins in Navadvip. Such a pious activity. But they were not pure devotees. They were materialistic devotees. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Das Goswami that your uncle and your father are just like two worms in stool. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was joking with him, but he was not very much impressed by all the charity that they were given, because they were destined to come back and suffer or enjoy the results of their pious activity. But any body we get means birth, death, old age, and disease, and to some degree or another, bigger, greater or lesser, some reactions, some suffering due to our sinful activities. Even we walk on the street, we step on an ant, that we're responsible for it. And how many ants are there in Melbourne that we've stepped on? We don't even know. In my room, there's a little speck of prasadam that was there, and thousands of insects came to try to get it. So if I swept them away, even one of them got harmed. I hurt one of his little legs. I'd be responsible. So material nature is not very, as Prabhupada said, it's not very liberal. Prabhupada said, even a child puts his hand into the fire, it's not that the fire thinks, well, there's a little child, he doesn't know what he's doing, I won't burn him. No, even he gets burned. Therefore, whatever body we get is going to be an engagement and is going to force us to suffer, or maybe so-called enjoy, which means just generally less suffering. So this is not considered to be good. So what is the solution? Evam manak karma prasam prayukte avidyatma upadiyamane pritirna yavan maivasudeva namuchate deha yogena tadva. That as long as one is filled with these upadis, these designations, and the designations will come as long as we're entangled in material existence. As long as our intelligence is bewildered by material conceptions, as long as we've accepted a false ego and misidentified ourselves with this mind and senses, then we're going to have so many false designations. And as long as we have these false designations, then evamana karma prasamyung yungte avidyaman upadiyamane. Then we won't be able to evam pritirna yavan maya vasudeva. We won't be able to completely develop love for Vasudeva. As long as we don't develop love for Krishna, we'll have to take one body after another. Kamsa was intelligent. He was able to speak. Vasudeva was intelligent. He was able to speak to Kamsa, but Kamsa was a demon. He didn't believe, as a matter of fact, his whole existence was against Vishnu, as we'll find out, because as he'll find out, he'll find out from Narada Muni, that Vishnu was the one who killed him in his last lifetime as Kalanimi, and now he's come back as Kamsa. So his bitter enemy was Vishnu, who had come back to kill him again. So therefore, whatever he was doing, his fruitive activities, his culture of so-called knowledge, and his attempts for liberation will all be baffled. So Kamsa, Vasudeva was simply trying to pacify Kamsa, but he knew Kamsa couldn't be pacified. But at least he thought, let me try to save Devaki, because then eventually Devaki might be able to give birth to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and he'll come and kill Kamsa. So he was using diplomacy, because ultimately he wanted Kamsa to be killed because he was a big impediment in the progress of the society at that time. The demons had taken birth, and the family of the Yadu dynasty and the family of the aristocratic members of society, they thought they had this philosophy, as we'll find out later on, when they had their board meeting, because Kamsa also had a board. Everyone's supposed to have a board. He's supposed to bounce your ideas off of. So he had his board, but he had a very special board. Putana, Agasura, Dhenukasura. He had a very special board of people, very special personalities. Trinavarta, Vatsasura, Agasura. And they revealed what their purpose was. Their purpose was to kill Vishnu. That's why they had taken birth as members of the aristocratic society, because they hoped that they were able to kill all the Brahmins off. When the Brahmins were killed off, and they killed the cows, there's no more sacrifice, then all the demigods would die. And all the demigods, when the demigods would die, the head demigod Vishnu would also die. So the purpose why they were here, why Kamsa was here, why Agasura was here, and all these demons from the different planets, the aim was to kill all the Brahmins, all the cows, all the Vaishnavas, and eventually kill Vishnu. And therefore, when Kamsa took advice from them after learning that actually he had not killed the eighth child of Devaki, was a woman, and that he had not killed her because she was Durga, he got bad advice from them to go and kill all these people. So Vasudeva knew that this person's a demon, there's no way I'm going to convince him. Prahlad Maharaj tried to convince his father Hiranyakashipu. He gave him some good advice. So when Hiranyakashipu asked, my dear Prahlad, what's the best thing you've learned in school? He said, Tatsada manye suryavarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyama satgrahat edvatma vatam griham andakupam gato vanam gato yadarim asriyeta. So Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear father, the best thing I've learned in school is that you're a great fool. Needless to say, Kamsa did not appreciate this straightforward philosophy. Prahlad Maharaj didn't want to beat around the bush with his father. Because he asked him an honest question. Prahlad gave him an honest answer. You're the best of the demons. But why are you a fool? Because tatsada manye soryavarya dehinam sada means you're always submigvigna, you're always in anxiety. You wanted to become immortal, you wanted to become free from all anxiety about dying, but still I see you're always intoxicated, you're always in distress. Even someone, the demigods displease you in the slightest way and you get angry. You're controlled by lust and anger, by illusion, so you're always in a savigna. So I want to help you, Father. Get out of this anxiety, out of this illusion, become happy. So go to Vrindavan, chant Hare Krishna. But that was the last thing Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear because he thought Vishnu was his enemy. Therefore he threw his little 5-year-old child off his lap and eventually told his friends, his associates, his servants to go and kill Prahlad Maharaj and torture him to death. So, good advice, you give good advice to a serpent, is like, to a demon, is like feeding milk to a serpent. The serpent will accept the milk and drink it, but that will only increase his poison. He's not going to appreciate it. So giving good advice. So Vasudeva is going to give some diplomatic advice. Well, actually not diplomatic, indirect advice. That you're a great personality, you're like this and that, how can you do this? People like you never do anything like that. Like Krishna told Arjuna that you don't want to fight, you're in the Bali concept of life, but he said that, my dear Arjuna, a learned person doesn't talk like you do. He didn't tell Arjuna you're a fool. He said a learned person, a person who's not a fool, doesn't talk like you do. So indirectly he called him a fool. So indirectly, Vasudeva is telling Kamsa, you're in the Bali concept of life, you're a fool, you're going to get into trouble. I'm just trying to help you. But Kamsa didn't listen to any of that until Vasudeva said, well, all right, I agree with you, it's a problem. I'll give you the 8th child. I'll give you every child born of Devaki. And which he did. Kamsa believed in Vasudeva because he was a pure soul. And when he gave his first child, Kamsa said, you can take it back because it's the 8th child that's supposed to kill me. But Narada Muni wanted to hasten Krishna's advent. So he told Kamsa that don't trust Vasudeva. Don't trust that the 8th child that's going to kill you. It depends how you count. If you count from the last, so the first child might be the 8th. And if you count from the first, then the last child the 8th. So then Kamsa wound up trying to kill all the child. Well, he killed all the child until, of course, he tried to kill Yogamaya and he was unsuccessful. Because the demon is ultimately unsuccessful. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
We talk about material things, material activities. But what about material things like that we're using every day? For example, iPhone. Like to create an iPhone.
iPhone is divine.
iPhone is divine, but let's say the materials used for it are sourced through different various ways where a lot of sinful activities may be taking place.
Well, if you use the iPhone for sinful activities, it probably is not very auspicious. But if you utilize it in Krishna's service, then Rupa Goswami says that anakulasya sankalpe, and it's actually, what is, anyabi, no, that's not right either. That one has to, giving up anakulasya sankalpa, giving up activities which are actually meant for Krishna's service. What is the first word? What's that? No, that's the definition of surrender, Sharanagati. Yukta vairagi uchate. Anantasya says, what is it? Vishayan. Anas itag upayunjate. Nirbandha Krishna sambandha yukta vairagi uchate. That giving up things that are meant to be utilized, could be used in Krishna's service, is not really proper renunciation. Real renunciation is to utilize whatever we have properly in Krishna's service. So everything here is Krishna's energy, and was given to us to utilize in His service. So therefore probably use a dictating machine, or we drive in cars. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada emphasized that, but we use it for preaching, for spreading Krishna consciousness, and engaging in Krishna service. So that's proper use of the energies. Then the material energy we'll see is divine.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is from yesterday's class. You mentioned about criticizing devotees, like how we shouldn't criticize devotees, like even if there's a fall down of a devotee. Even Krishna says that one should consider him as a Vaishnav.
Saintly person. Saintly person.
Yeah, saintly person. Yeah, saintly person. But my question is now about, say, I also hear that we should discriminate among devotees to, like, say, like who we eat the remnants from, or who we take siksha from, like who we associate with. So how do we navigate the healthy way to sort of discriminate and sort of to avoid the first nam aparadha as well? Like how does the blasphemy of the Vaishnava...
Well, we're not fools. Therefore, Prabhupada said if one continues to do sinful activities, even if one is engaged somewhat in Krishna's service, then it should be understood not to be a Haivite devotee. So we have to have our discrimination. We know what the principles are. We know what the spiritual activities are. We know what sinful activities are. So we have to observe what someone's doing. And then we know either to respect within the mind, even the Prakriti Sahajas, but not intimately associate with them. And then with those, so there may be sadatam kirtiyanto mam, they're a little bit, tiny bit under the spiritual energy, but they're also influenced by the illusory energy. But itantas chadrita vrataha, those who are actually taking Krishna consciousness seriously, trying for liberation from the material concept of life, then we try to cooperate with them and work together with them to become Krishna conscious and spread Krishna consciousness. And namasyantasimam bhaktya nituto upasate. And those who are always engaged in Krishna service with devotion, then we learn from them as an example how to perform devotional service properly. So it's not difficult. It's not complicated. We don't have to worry about, exactly where someone is on the charts of whether their voice would reach the top 10 charts. It's not, as these things are inconsequential compared to the fact that they're engaged in Krishna service and how much they're engaged and with how much devotion. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. Related to his question, so if it is one person or myself fall down, so others don't have to associate, but they can still say Hare Krishna and loving, and they can be still nice. Is that correct understanding?
No, they should be cruel and they should torture you.
So, but if someone is really fell down, so they don't have to associate because they don't want to get
Well,
the...
you fall down and you start taking it. If you're continuously falling, like the Prakriti Sahaja is, in that sense that, better off not to associate. But if you fall down and then you come back to Krishna consciousness, to the process, then people should associate with you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected Krishnadas, but the other devotees didn't reject him. He had one fall down. It wasn't. He took up residence with the Bhāgavatas or something.
I didn't understand.
Krishna Das was a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who got allured by the Bhāgavatas when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on pilgrimage, and Krishna Das was serving him. The Bhāgavatas used to use ladies to lure people into their group. So he got allured by some ladies, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and dragged him away by his hair out of that group. And later on, when he went back to Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Krishna Das and told him that because, you've performed these activities, therefore you can't be in my association anymore. So he was very disturbed, Krishna Das, but the other devotees like Lord Nityananda and other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, still they engage in Krishna Das and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's service.
What do they mean by if someone is not practicing, not in the right consciousness, not to associate? What do they mean by?
If you go to McDonald's every day and watch the football games, then probably you're not a high-class devotee.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
That's extreme, by the way.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. Maharaj, my question is from yesterday's class when we were discussing about Mother Yashoda giving birth to Krishna. So we understand that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda are eternally situated as Lord Krishna's parents in his unmanifest pastimes or Aprakat Leela. But on the other side, in the 10th canto, chapter 8, from verse 48 to 50, we see that Drona and Dara become the parents of Krishna. So how do we reconcile these two
No, they didn't
statements?
become parents of Krishna, they became parents of Vishnu. It wasn't Krishna, it was the expansion of Krishna. So, it's a little complicated, but anyhow, Vamanadev, Kasyapa and Aditi gave birth to Vamanadev, who's an expansion of Krishna. And Drona and Dara, they gave birth to, I guess that was Prishnigarbha. But Nanda Maharaj and Jasoda gave birth to Krishna. Krishna appeared from them. In any case, exactly, I don't understand fully how Nanda and Jasoda in the spiritual world expanded themselves they have a demigod portion, and then from the demigod portion, they took birth. They appeared in this world as Vasudeva and Devaki, and then also Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So exactly how it's done, we'll find out when we become liberated.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances. You mentioned that in our everyday activities we commit so many sinful activities. Unknowingly, we kill so many insects unknowingly. And it sounds like there's no escape from the sinful reactions of such activities. So does that mean those reactions will come in the way of attaining Krishna Prema?
The reactions to
those sinful activities committed unknowingly.
You mean they're eliminated when you attain Krishna Prema?
Yeah, yes. Is that going to hinder our progress towards Krishna consciousness?
Is it going to hinder it? Well, no. If you're walking down the street and chanting Hare Krishna, when you run over some ants, they'll be benefited. It's like if the chariot runs over, the Jagannath chariot runs over you, you get liberated. So we have this chariot that we're in is utilizing Krishna's service, and all those living entities will go back to Godhead, maybe even before us.
Thank you, Maharaj.
But keep on chanting. Otherwise, some of them will go back to Godhead and some will just get crushed. Anything else? Thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanand.